So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Hello, and welcome to 90 Day Fiancé Okay. I'm Mr. O, and today, Miss H and I will be discussing Season 8, Episode 16 of Happily Ever After. In this episode, Patrick opens his heart to Thais about his father, Loren wants to go back to work, Ashley and Manuel keep wanting the other to listen to them, Jasmine is done hearing Gino's constructive criticism, Rob and Sophie celebrate his birthday apart from each other, Kobe says goodbye to his American grandpa-dressed father, and Angela has a surprise for Skylar when she comes back to the States. We'll be back again next week to talk about episode 17, and we'll also be back on our other channel, Love After Lockup MK, when Love After Lockup returns later this month. Alright, thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy!
Hello, Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you today?
I'm doing better than you, apparently, because,
Right, I have COVID. That is not the best of news, but quite honestly, I feel good. I don't feel like I've been lucky. I like to think it's the vaccinations. I like to think that it's just me taking care of myself, but I sound a little sick. It's like a very, very mild cold. I never even had a fever, so
yeah,
I'm mostly feeling good.
That was my experience when I had it in December, but then I got a couple months later I got the flu, and that kicked my ass. Oh my god! I got, like you said, I like to think it's the vaccinations, but I was vaccinated for both. I got my flu shot and everything.
Absolutely. I think the misconception though too is that if you're vaccinated, you're immune. It's like no, I get it. It's misleading because, their immunity and immunizations kind of start off the same.
Right.
Yeah, that's not exactly what it means. So, yeah. But let's just jump into this group. So let's start off with, let's start off with our couple that seems to have come to a close, at least for this season, and that's Angela and Michael. So Angela and Michael have kissed and made up. Angela is feeling good, and Michael says he's feeling okay. Angela says they've been talking things out. Everything they got from couples therapy kind of just got thrown out, so she blames Michael for lying to her in the past and being shady, but them talking things out have made things better. Michael thinks they are starting over, and he's feeling good about it. Angela is worried that they'll start fighting again, which, knowing this couple, that's a very valid worry. Mm-hmm. Michael offers to let her check his phone thoroughly, and Angela wants him to get rid of the chat from Paradise Men from his phone and warns him that she's always watching him. Michael says he's tired of fighting. Angela doesn't think they're fixed, but she feels emotionally connected again. It's been about a month now, and Angela and Michael are now both back in the U.S. Michael is wearing a leather American flag jacket with a giant eagle on the back. Just as Michael told Angela, the visa was approved after just waiting 2 weeks. It's been 7 years in the making, but Michael is in the U.S. finally. Michael walks out of the airport and is instantly cold. Mm-hmm. He says it's way too cold there, and Angela says, welcome to the winter. Angela says that, they're going to be together 24/7, so she's just not sure how everything is going to go. Michael is taken with all the lights and the lack of traffic and the smooth road. Michael says that he'll just have to adjust to America. He's excited and can't wait to build a family and share a life with Angela and her daughter and grandbabies. Michael is looking forward to also seeing Angela's home, the place where she has video called him and yelled at him. Angela hasn't told any of the family that Michael is going to be there, and it's meant to be a surprise for Skyla. Michael can't wait to meet the grandbabies. Angela wants to go inside first to really, not raise any suspicions and really make it a real surprise. Angela says that if Michael were to leave, it would hurt not just her, but her entire family. Okay, so Michael is finally in America after, I cannot believe it's been 7 years. Not all of us seeing them, right? I feel like we've seen at least 4 years of all this.
Yeah, I can't remember how many seasons they've been on, but it's like
so many.
It's been 7 years since they've come onto the show together, which is like, I believe that. I feel like it's an eternity every time they're here. Like,
yeah.
Having the same fights over and over again. Sure.
Right. So do you think Skyla is going to see this as a pleasant surprise, seeing how we left it with them?
I can't. Nobody's going to see it as a pleasant surprise when you're just like, even if Skyla liked the guy, like, or didn't even know him, like, it's very, very weird to be like, surprise, this person lives with us now. That's weird.
Yeah.
That is unpleasant. You need time to adjust to that.
It does make me wonder a little bit, like, do they have to do anything to prepare? Well, I guess they don't have to prepare the room or anything like that because he's sharing a room with Angela, but it does seem like there should have been some preparation involved.
Like, yeah, maybe not physical preparation of getting it ready, but like a mental preparation of living with someone. That's a pretty decently big change for everybody to have. Like, you know, I don't know what she's doing in private or whatever, but like, you know, it's going to be like some person's going to be around. There's going to be extra person in the bathroom, using the shower, like all those kind of things. You're like, you don't need to like physically get ready for it. It's like, you know, let's get the man shampoo or whatever, but you have to be like, all right, I'm going to have to be ready for this. Or alternatively, find a different living arrangement if you're Skyla and you don't want to live with this guy. Like, it's weirdly like forced upon her in a way that feels uncomfortable to me. Yeah.
I mean, I think the grandbabies are going to be excited, but it's just because they're kids and they're excited about anything that seems like new and fun.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So having someone else to be around and play with them, that seems fun. Sure. Well, why wouldn't they like that?
Yeah, well, definitely they're going to be like, but we've seen it the other way, right? We've seen kids who are like, this dude is always here now. Like, I used to sit down there and play my PS5, and now there's a dude sitting on the couch who just doesn't do anything else. Like that could be, it's one of those things that I could see the shine wearing off of it pretty quickly.
Right. The last time we really, really saw the grandbabies, though, they all seemed kind of young, where they were kind of more at that age where they would be a lot more accepting. And the other thing is, too, is I feel like we've seen that scenario where, like, the kids are, like, really skeptical of someone coming in because they didn't really know them, right? They have had 7 years of video calls with Papa Michael, you know, and Angela talking about Michael all the time, where I feel like they're more mentally prepared than your average. And quite honestly, I feel like the more skeptical ones are preteens or teens. Right.
I mean, the other thing that was like, you know, getting used to things is like, doesn't Angela live in Georgia?
Yeah.
Right? And he was complaining about the Georgia winter.
Oh, I know. Like, it's not even snowing there. Like, calm yourself.
Right. It was like, I mean, it's definitely colder, right? For sure.
Right.
But it's like, you know, it's not. I'm looking at where she is in Georgia. It's like pretty far south. Like, for it to be like, and not to say it doesn't get cold. Like, I've been in Texas in the snow, right? Mm-hmm. It does get cold in the South and cold enough to snow. It wasn't currently snowing when you saw them. But I feel like Jasmine in Michigan had a much better argument for it being, it's too damn cold.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So that's enough of them. Let's talk about the other group, or at least a group we didn't see much of, and that was Ashley and Manuel. So they're still fighting, but she has to pee-pee, and that's what she said. I have to pee-pee. So the fight has to stay on hold for a minute. So she asks him kind of again when she comes back out, when he was in New York, did he send money to Ecuador? He again denies it because he didn't even have his credit card. Then she brings up that he's directly talking to baby mama, and he says, well, yeah, that part's true. I am directly talking to her. It's kind of silly of you to think I didn't. And she says she's not mad that he's doing that. She's mad that he was lying and making everything more difficult, but not communicating what was really going on. But anyway, we do get back to the money that he supposedly sent, that Jonathan said he sent. So since Jonathan said he said something, somebody's clearly lying. So Manuel doubles down and says it's the truth. And he even tells us it's the truth. And we're reminded by a flashback that Ashley did have his credit card, because remember that when she was being petty and he was like, could I have my card when I go? And she's like, no, I'm not talking to you. No.
Right. So
he left. So now he's frustrated. And he gets up and he to leave the fight while it's still going on, because it's, I don't know, he's going on. And he gets up and just starts ranting, and she's ranting, and he's talking about her bad attitude, and she's talking about, and maybe if this is how she's going to be, he'll have to leave, and blah, 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 blah. You listen to everybody else. You always believe everybody else. You never believe me. And they yell like ciao at each other sarcastically as they leave. So he leaves, and then she kind of comes back in and tells us that she's tired of having this fight over and over again, but she feels like she's not being heard. So this is another theme I feel like we see with these two in a couple.
Yeah.
Is that they always have a fight, and the fight always ends with both people saying, I'm not being heard. They are not listening to what I'm saying. So kind of, at least in this case, who do you feel like has a better case for that?
I think Manuel, like, just because I don't know. I would say because he's giving her reasons why he's answering her questions, but she doesn't seem to really, I don't even think it's being heard. I think it's trusting what the other person's saying, right?
Sure.
They're hearing what each other is saying. They're just not trusting that it's truthful. And I think that's really more of the issue here. And so in that situation, I feel like it's more so Ashley not trusting what Manuel says. So Manuel says, how could I give her money? I didn't even have my credit card. And she says to him, well, there's other ways to give money other than credit cards. And so she's just not trusting that he's telling the truth.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would tend to go with Manuel, because Manuel does repeatedly give reasons why he's not being communicative. Right. And part of it is because if I would have told you, you'd have went all crazy and wild. And she crazy and wild says, no, I wouldn't have. That wouldn't have happened. And he's like, that's where he's like, I feel like I'm not being listened to. She's like, I wouldn't. I'm just go crazy because you're not talking to me. And it's just like, it's kind of a back and forth circular argument. But it does seem that she just completely dismisses what he has to say.
Yeah.
Like, his reasoning, why do you do this? Here's the reason. That reason is not valid. Give me another one.
Right.
And then gets upset that he didn't give her any reasons. And it's like, well, he did. You just rejected all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. This couple, like, I still can't fathom how they're together. Quite honestly, it just seems like he is so annoyed with her all the time. Like, I don't know, like, what is making them stick together. Both of them, too, because she always seems annoyed with him. He doesn't even really ever seem like he's really affectionate or, like, loves her in any way.
No, yeah. It's funny that we always had that. We had they always just made their arguments go away by having sex, right?
Right.
But we haven't seen that much this season. They really haven't focused on how much they're having sex like that in the previous season. But it's that non-sexual, like, affection that you show, right? That is not there. Like, he doesn't hug her or touch her,
compliment her in any way.
Yeah.
Like, act nice in any way. They always talk to each other. They're so annoyed with one another.
Yes. Every conversation we've seen, both of them. And that goes both ways, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
She seems like she's constantly annoyed by him. And is never like happy to be around him or happy. It's just like, God, you're driving me insane. And then he's just like,
always saying,
why are you so negative?
Woman.
Yeah. But I mean, he also has the humor of like a 50s like comedian, right? Like, my damn wives, right, guys? They suck. Like that definitely seems to be like his style of humor that he goes with. So I'm never sure how much he's kidding or serious or, believes what he's saying. But yes, he's always like, you damn woman, women be crazy, aren't they? Look at this crazy woman being crazy.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of that kind of sense of humor, I feel like that also applies to Gino. So let's talk about Gino and Jasmine. So Jasmine comes out into the room in her pink bathing suit and a bejeweled choker, and she's wanting to apply bronzer. She didn't have time to tan in Michigan, and the conditions just don't exist to tan in Michigan. And she's sad that tanning beds are the only way to get some color there. She's feeling beautiful and confident. She asks Gino if she has camel toe, and he is confused. So in the interview, you see Jasmine trying to demonstrate what it looks like, camel toe on her arm, and Gino is weirdly getting turned on by the crease in her arm because he's like, disturbing. Yeah, that does look like.
And I feel like he's gonna like later in the night be like, oh, look what I can do. Hey.
Oh gosh. So Jasmine asks him to rate her, and he doesn't feel comfortable rating her. So he ends up, after she kind of like is like, please, he gives her a 4. It's uncertain if that's out of a 5 or a 10, but
I think
Jasmine
he said
tells
4
him
out of 10.
Yeah, okay, that's bad. So Jasmine tells him to be more supportive. At the pageant, Gino is picking at his nose as the women are walking down the runway. When Jasmine comes on, Gino records Jasmine and her slightly lumpy butt. The BBL does...
Yeah, it did not really do as promised, for sure.
No. So Jasmine asks Gino how she did afterwards, and Gino says her walk could have used improvement, and it's not good. Jasmine just thinks that Gino is trying to put her down, and they bicker in the interview as Jasmine calls him rude, but Gino refuses to shut up. After the bathing suit portion, Gino hopes that his feedback has alerted her on areas that she can improve, and that was in his words, by the way.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Jasmine says that he is focusing on all the negatives, and so she doesn't need that, so she uninvites him to the rehearsals, and Gino is upset. Jasmine tells him to be her husband and not her coach, and so he can just be in the audience and support. Gino thinks that he's being pushed away, and he also thinks she's pushing the relationship away. Yeah. He feels like she doesn't want him around and wonders if this is revenge. Okay, Gino does not make any sense to me. I don't know why he doesn't understand that there's a difference between being supportive, like in a kind of unconditional way, as opposed to being supportive in a constructive way that will help you get better. Like, why isn't he getting it? But more importantly to me, what does he mean he thinks that this is revenge? Revenge for what?
I don't know. Revenge for making her feel bad? Revenge for any of the terrible things he's done the whole time? Oh, but I agree with you that it just seems like he is either willfully or idiotically misunderstanding what she means by "I want you here to support me," right?
Yeah.
And yes, I think it seems very obvious to me that she just wants gassed up. She just wants, "You're doing awesome, baby. You look great. You're the hottest person up there. Fantastic. You're a 10 out of 10 to me," right? That's what she wants.
Right.
She does not care about winning this competition.
No, I don't get the impression she does either. Like, she said she wanted it to boost her confidence. And, like, if we think about what she has complained about, it's her confidence when it comes to feeling attractive. And so getting Gino to say that, "Oh, baby, you look beautiful," like, that would help her confidence just as much as winning this thing would.
Yes, I agree with that. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Right. But even if he was right, and what she was looking for was a coach, right? Somebody who's actually going to give her advice to improve it. He's a shitty coach.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
My man needs to learn about the compliment sandwich. He has no, like he's got nothing. He says nothing positive about her, and just goes straight in for the criticism. And it's like, that's an awful coach. That just makes everybody hate you. It doesn't inspire any kind of confidence or any kind of willingness to want to change. What it inspires is you to be stubborn and dig in with what you've been doing to show them, to show that person. It's a terrible technique.
I do kind of wonder a little bit if it's his way of like negging her. You know?
And that's what she kind of that's what it sounds like she's suspecting, is it's negging for sure.
Yeah, like he is just always trying to keep her down and make her feel bad, so that way she doesn't get that, like, "Oh, hey, I could do better than you."
Yeah, right. Like, yes, that does definitely seems to think like he knows he has many flaws, right? And so yes, and is this just a way to make her think like, "Oh, I'm not even good enough for him. Like, I have to keep working to be good enough for him," which is pretty wild. Yeah. Because he's awful. Nobody needs to be good enough for him.
I know, right?
All right. So let's talk about I'm going to start with that. I'm going to do this. Let's talk about Patrick and Thais. So we're finally free of brothers, friends, and dads. So Patrick and Thais go to one of their it looks like one of their old haunts in the neighborhood, which is the restaurant where they had their first date. So this trip has added a lot more tension to things than Patrick had expected, with all the family drama and friend drama and things like that. So they also tell us about their awkward first date when they were here. They said at the time, Patrick didn't speak any Portuguese. So there was just a lot of like silent looking at each other and passing back and forth of the phone. But he was smitten enough that he went and learned Portuguese. He talked about how hard he worked at it. Like he worked hours a day. And that kind of won her over. But like, oh, this guy's doing this for me. Like, okay. Like, and that was helpful. So the restaurant they go to is like one of those Brazilian steakhouses they have here where they just kind of come with the big stick of meat and like slice it on your plate. I love those places too.
Yeah,
they're great.
They're so good.
But they talk about the meeting between John and her friends, and she thinks that Patrick does too much to defend his family, not just John, but Dad too, and that's going to transition us to talking about Dad. So, because his dad is always asking for stuff, and she says her dad doesn't even ask for anything, and he's like kind of counters by like, yeah, he doesn't ask for anything, but he also doesn't give us anything, like. He doesn't. I mean, which is kind of funny because he has specifically been asking for one thing the entire time they've been here, but we will get to that. So then he starts crying, like just kind of out of nowhere, just head in his hand, just starts crying because once he says that his dad wasn't around. So even Thais hasn't seen Patrick cry like this. So she stops kind of nagging him and talking to him and just is like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh. So we rejoin them and Patrick is still covering his face and crying. And he tells us and Thais about how his dad was like a trucker or something. And sometimes he would be around for a couple of days and then they'd change his route. So he wasn't coming through town anymore. And then he'd be gone for like a year or two. So he says that before he came back to Brazil, he hadn't seen his father for 5 years. Not this time, I don't think. I think he meant the last time. Like when he came when he met Thais. And getting that apartment was kind of the beginning of his dad being back in his life, which is why it's so important to him. So he said it's the first time his father and him get to work on something together. And, holding on to that and keeping that is worth the few $100s a month that it costs. So Thais understands where he's coming from a little bit better now and wishes he would be like that, open like that more often. So Patrick wants to get their dads together to squash the whole thing and come to a reasonable understanding between everyone just to relieve the stress. And she thanks him for being so open and says that he can keep the apartment, but she wants something from him in return. Try to bond with my dad and then end up asking for the blessing. So Patrick says, okay, but he feels like the impediment to that hasn't really been him. It's been Carlos. So we'll see how that goes. But for this bonding, they're going to invite Carlos on their like mini vacation within the vacation. So they're going to go to a town named Januba. And of course, if Carlos is going to come, Patrick says, well, I have something to ask too. John's going to come too because they just need John around to spice things up. And he's like, because I want you to get to know and bond with Thais, which I think was, and I'll ask that. So he promises to talk to John and get him to be on his best behavior. All right. So I guess I'll start with my question. Does Thais really need any more time to bond with John?
Right. Good point, because if she hasn't done it already, like, is she ever? I don't know if he was really asking for that so much as he was kind of asking her to really put in an honest effort. Mm-hmm. The way that she's kind of asking him to put in effort to get to know with and bond with her dad. I do think it sounds like the same ask because he's been asking her to do this for a while. Right. But maybe I can see how it's a little bit different in this way because he's like, hey, you want me to basically do the same thing with your dad. So will you do the same thing with John? And maybe she will kind of realize like, oh yeah, I guess like just trying to coexist with this person isn't really trying to bond with them.
Sure. That makes sense because this was one of those things now, right? Where it was like, it seems like after they were married or anything, this is a weird time for this to happen, that she really understood for the first time where Patrick was coming from with this stuff. And I feel like she would probably, I don't know if she'd like him better, but be a little more understanding of John if she understood where he was coming from. Because it definitely get the impression that John puts on a, big macho, I don't care about anything, it's all right, guess everything's good. Like to kind of cover up from some deep hurts in his life too, Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
There's moments where I'm like, oh, I kind of like John. Because I think I understand that a lot of the things that make him obnoxious to Thais is like him really just joking around.
Yes,
and
for
like
sure.
playing into like this character, you know, that, and so it's just like, and to me,
Well,
I do find it entertaining, but also
Yeah.
I'm not kind of the person.
You're not the end of
that-
it. Yeah.
Right, not at the end of like whatever his jokes, comments, shenanigans.
Well, and he's very much a person. He's very much a ball buster, right? And so he's going to be
Mhm.
like, "Oh, is that bothering you? Oh, is that bothering you?" And he's
Let me
going to
do
keep
it some
poking at it.
more.
Let me do that
Right.
some more. Let me do that some more. Ha ha.
Yeah.
Look at this bothering you. How funny, right? That's definitely his thing. And if you're not, familiar with that or comfortable with that or around that a lot, then that's a lot to take for sure.
Right, absolutely. I felt bad for Patrick, and when he was talking about his dad, but I don't know if him, like, letting his dad use him essentially is
Right.
really the answer to building that
For sure.
relationship. So I feel like they need to do some kind of like mediation therapy or counseling or something. It sounds like his dad is kind of difficult to really get through emotionally.
It does. Like I could imagine that of being like, if you did your couples therapy with dad or
Right.
whatever, right? That it's going to be like, Dad, do you understand that Patrick feels really bad that if he feels very to his core that if he stops paying you money, then you won't be his dad anymore, right? You'll stop doing dad things. And his dad's response would be like, okay, but I need the money.
Right. I can definitely be like, oh yeah, but what am I supposed to do? I'm retired. I don't have any other money coming in. It's like,
Right.
This isn't about you. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on and talk about other family dynamics here, and that's Emily and Kobe. So if you recall from last week's episode, we stopped in the middle of Valerie's speech, and so he's in the middle of making a speech and tells them that Emily knows how to take care of her husband, and it doesn't matter that they're different. Valerie wishes them the best, and everybody cheers. Kobe was concerned that marrying an American woman would be an issue, but he is very happy that everyone is so accepting. They now have to get blessings from the elders in the clan. The elder makes a speech about there being love there and hopes that the marriage will last a long time. Everyone cheers, and Emily's dad hugs the elder. There is singing and dancing and just festive good times at this wedding. Emily feels really good about all the approvals from the family. Kobe makes a speech tributing his past mother, and after the wedding, they are driving to Kobe's house because they want to say goodbye. They have a gift for Kobe's dad, the gift of an American grandpa outfit. They bought him cargo shorts, white ankle socks, tennis shoes, a fanny pack, and a button-up America shirt. Kobe's dad comes out doing a little dance for everyone. His dad feels like he's in Washington, and his wife says that she didn't even recognize him. Having everyone accept their marriage makes it harder for them to leave because they feel the love there in Cameroon. Kobe doesn't know when he's going to be back, so it is also really difficult for him. So I don't know if there's really that much to say about their trip. I mean, it ended. It was great. They tried to give us a fake out with Valerie's speech, but I know they try to tease next time, like them talking about living in Cameroon.
That's not happening. Like, who are they playing with anybody else?
Well, you got to come up with a last minute, like 2-second conflict, right, for the show.
Sure.
Yeah. So, anything notable that you wanted to talk about with this couple? What did you think of American Grandpa outfit?
I thought the American Grandpa outfit was like adorable. Like that was so much fun.
Plus his enthusiasm for like dancing around in it. It was adorable.
Oh my God.
So cute.
How much that they did it, how much he liked it, how much he got a kick out of it.
Yeah.
And like, he went up to David and we're like, we're the same. Look at us. like, look at how we're dressed. It was just fantastic. Like that was a really, really fun. And that's what I feel like we need more of that in this show. We need more of
the palate cleansers.
Yeah. Like these people I like. Yeah. The conflict's interesting and the things that, that nature, but like, I like to see people having fun, and we never see people having fun.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like way back in the day, like everybody's like palate cleanser, the palate cleansers were like Kyle and Noon, right?
Oh,
and the skydiving when she was like, "Oh my Buddha," that was hilarious. Like,
yeah,
the fun things can also be funny. And I think that's something that this show maybe has gotten away from, is that fun things can be funny too. Instead of just like the way these people fight and then have sex in a bathroom is hilarious. And it's like, there's other funny things. There's other like interesting things to watch on TV besides that.
Right. I think it is good to have a balance because I don't know.
Sure, I wouldn't want
their
all that.
Their conflict was okay this season. If I had to rate their drama, I give it, well, are we scoring out of a 5 or a 10? If we're scoring out of 5, I'd probably give them something like a 2 for their drama.
Well, that's it too. Right, sure.
But was it interesting enough? I'd say the most interesting stuff in theirs was outside the drama. I like seeing the country. I like seeing their traditions. I like seeing them shop for stuff and what was on the bride list. Like that all was more interesting than all their fakey, let's meet up with the ex-girlfriend drama.
100%. Like that's part of it too. It's like, yes, I would have this is a tourism board thing for Cameroon. Like not that people are going to go, but that was way more interesting. Yes. See how her dad getting all into, I'm going to make this bride list like traditional. I want to make it, I want it to be good. I want to be clever, and like the bonding with the parents and the wedding. That was all the good stuff in this one. The drama with the Valerie in the club saying the African man, like stuff that was terrible. Like I wanted from this crew, I wanted to bring especially if this is your palate cleanser, right? Just no need to shoehorn this kind of silly like drama, like you said, that next week on drama, maybe we'll move to Camp. No, they will not. They will not. They're not doing that. Like, no.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on, let's talk about my last couple. And that is, oh boy, our Sophie and Rob.
Oh gosh. Well, mostly just Rob. Sophie wasn't even in it.
Sophie was in it a little tiny bit, but we'll call that. So we start with a familiar sight for both me and Miss H, and Rob in the Kansas City airport.
Oh, yeah.
So right, I'm like, and I even noticed. I don't know if you noticed. Did you? One of the photo, like at the beginning, they did like a photo montage of here's the scenes of Kansas City. One of them were taken from the deck of our favorite bar in Kansas City.
Oh gosh.
So he doesn't want to sit at home waiting for Sophie to get back from Kay's, so he's spending his birthday back in his hometown, which sounds to him a lot more fun than sitting in Austin alone. So he says he hasn't been back in years, and this trip he hopes is just nothing but love. So then he gets in a car and goes to his mom's house, who he's sure is going to have opinion. Or he said he was going to his mom's house, but then didn't. But he's sure she's going to have opinions on the situation. So he reminisces about all the streets in the neighborhood, including the houses of the girls that he crushed on, the houses of the girls he had sex with. He was like pointing them all out. It was like, that girl I banged, like that girl I lost my virginity to. This one I had a crush on. Her dad made me break. It was just going on.
Wow.
So he meets mom at a restaurant, and it's the first time he's seen his mom in person in like a year. And literally just the physical contact of his mom hugging him makes him feel better already. He's like, oh yeah, touching is nice. That's fun. So he tells his mom, whose name is Andrea, that he tells us that she's the exact opposite of Claire, because she would never judge people and would always give people the opportunity to prove themselves to her. Unlike Claire, who never did that ever, like never had a chance. So Andrea asks how things are going, and he says they're complicated. This marriage isn't what he thought it would be. So Andrea tells us that Rob is strong-willed but loyal, and they together have been through a lot of hard times in their lives. So Andrea doesn't understand why Sophie isn't staying with her. She's like, that doesn't seem right. Then Rob said mostly blames Claire for kind of getting in Sophie's head and bad-mouthing him all the time. And, now it just seems like the only time Sophie comes back is to tell him that she needs more time to be alone and think. So Andrea says that sounds like she's kind of leaving him in limbo, which is extra difficult because she knows how hard commitment is to him. So it's like, oh, you finally made a commitment to somebody, and then they kind of leave you hanging like this. She once he does commit, she says he's all in, and it breaks her heart that he's not getting that loyalty back. So she's not going to say she doesn't support the relationship, but it does sound like she thinks he should end the relationship. So he thinks about it and says that right now he's not getting anything out of this relationship, so he can't keep doing that forever. Anyway, so then we switch over to Sophie, like you said, for just a minute, who is going to be going out with Kay. So they're talking about what dresses they're going to wear, doing makeup, stuff like that. They're going to go out, and even Sophie admits, well, it is Rob's birthday, and she feels guilty about that a little bit, but still thinks it's the right decision for them to be apart. And she also seems a little bit salty. He's like, well, he went to Kansas City, so I don't know what I was like. So she's worried that he's going to fall back into his old player habits in Kansas City. Pretty much universally agreed by everyone that Rob was a huge manho when he lived in KC.
Yeah.
So Kay doesn't want her to worry about that. But Kay is like, don't worry about that. Meanwhile, we see Rob out at a club and he's getting birthday shots from one of the scantily clad bottle girls. And then he's out with his friend Parker and he's saying he's trying to just enjoy himself. But, they're not trying to go crazy. But it looks like things get crazy pretty quickly because we see at least 5 shots that he does. We don't know how spread out that is. But he tells us he used to club a lot and kind of got burnt down on it. But it's kind of a nice throwback now. So the bottle girls are just like hanging out with them and like hanging all over them and asks like, what's your sign? And he was like, it's my birthday. Like I'm a Leo. And she's like, oh, I know a lot about Leos. Anyway, so he's used to getting hit on by pretty women and like basically is like, this is just kind of, I'm well aware of what I could do if I wanted to. Right.
Gosh.
But whatever. We just see more of these seemingly drunk women aggressively hitting on him until his old friend Tuan shows up. So Tuan is not surprised that all the women in the club are hitting on Rob, but was surprised that Rob got married. He was like, the hooking up with randos at the club, that's familiar. Married to someone, not seem like him. So things keep escalating until just, and it says bottle service. So, when she's introduced, I forget what her name was, but she just is like, I'm obsessed with him. And he like insults her. He's like, you're wrong about that. And she's like, yeah, but the guy who told me that's going to get kissed on the lips. And it's like, what?
What is happening?
So she thinks he might be able to, she might be able, like, she kind of sells it as like, I want to get to know him, which clearly means bang him. But he says he's still not trying to get into that kind of trouble right now. So he definitely doesn't do he doesn't kiss her or anything like that. So I guess my question starting there is, I know I can understand that people think Rob is attractive. I don't quite get it. Like he just seems kind of mid to me, but I think it's definitely a guys that women find attractive versus guys that guys think women find attractive, that women, you know what I mean? Like a guy versus a girl gaze type thing. But do you think he's really getting that much action all the time or getting that much action when there's TV cameras pointing at him for the whole time he's at the club?
I do think that Rob is physically very attractive. One of the more attractive people that we've had on this show. Mm-hmm. I don't like me personally, even with his level of attractiveness, I'm not into his style. I don't like his hair. That the ponytail with the shaved sides, not my thing. I think that he could have a much better hair and like facial hair maintenance. I think that if he had like a nice, like more fresh cut and was a little bit more shaved and wasn't as long, I would be like, yes, my man. But also like, I don't know. There's other things like, I know he's working on his fitness, but why in the world did we have to see him in his hotel room, like flexing his pecs? Like that was unnecessary. But I feel like that kind of goes along with that's the vibe of like a single man on the prowl who's doing good for himself, right? Because there's some amount of confidence that goes into being a player as well.
I mean, I think it's just funny that like it definitely goes to show you how far it takes you to be attractive, right?
Sure.
Because like it's one of those things where he's like at one point, she's like, people tell me I look like Sandra Bullock. He's like, no, you look like Scottie Pippen's ex-wife. She's like, that's kind of an insulting thing to say. He's like, yeah, but it's true, though. And she's like, oh, you're so funny. And it's like, no, like those things you're not get away with if you're not like super attractive. Like if she's not that into your looks, she's going to be like, ooh, go away. Scottie Pippen's wife, get out of here.
Maybe she just doesn't know what she looks like. Because I was going to say, I agree with him. She's way more attractive than Sandra Bullock. Sandra Bullock is like, okay, but I think that Scottie Pippen's ex-wife is actually younger than Sandra Bullock, I'm going to say.
I mean, I definitely do not know what Scottie Pippen's ex-wife looks like remotely.
She looks like a Kardashian, I'll tell you that.
Oh, well, that's... Yeah,
and she's younger, so...
Yeah, but it's like, I can see where people would say Sandra Bullock. Like, I can see why she would get that a lot. Not necessarily that I would take it as... I never tell people they look like celebrities because I never know if they're going to take it as a compliment or not. right? Because you never know if you're going to say somebody and they're going to be like, they're ugly. Why would you tell me that?
I usually don't ever tell people because it's very often the case where it's like, it's, like unpopular opinion. Like there's always going to be some people who think that. And then most people are like, no, I don't see it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, most people don't see it in themselves. And that's like literally a thing. So you're never going to get, very rarely you're going to get somebody who agrees, right? It's a matter of, are you complimenting them or are you not? And there's plenty of ways to compliment them without telling them to look like a random celebrity that they may or may not find attractive anyway.
Right. I think it's safer to just say like, oh, you look like Sandra Bullock's stunt double. So you're not saying it's like exactly the same, but there's resemblance
you're saying
there.
You could pass for them in a movie where you're not paying very close attention for like a second. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to our last couple, Loren and Alexi. So Loren is clothes shopping with her friend Noga. She tells us that things have been tense since their huge fight a couple weeks ago, or her fight with Alex. Loren thinks the solution to that is date night. Loren is looking for a dress that says she's got it, but she doesn't want a baby-making dress. Loren tells her friend about the argument with her and Alex. Noga sides with Loren, saying that Loren needs time for herself and that Alex is the asshole. Loren comes out in a pink satin dress and points out all the dimples she has. And by dimples, she means like lumpiness or what she thinks she has. She says that she still has body dysmorphia and she kind of thought the surgery would help with that, but she's just not there mentally. Loren says that they had a very healthy sex life, but with the surgery and just the negative energy with, all the extra work and the tension, things have suffered. She ends up picking out a leopard print dress because it reminds her of these sex sheets they used to have for their bed, which apparently were gifted to them by Alex's mom. Loren isn't sure Alex wants the old Loren back. Loren is getting ready, which means digging through her makeup collection. Alex comes home with the kids and has brought an orchid home, I'm assuming for their date night. Alex notices the makeup and her eyeliner. Loren wants him to think that she looks sexy and beautiful with a reveal. Alex is feeling excited about their date night, especially because he's been under so much stress lately. Loren comes out in her leopard print dress, and Alex has a positive reaction and makes a comment about how they remind him of the sex sheets. Loren says she feels nervous about date night. It feels weird to not be in her bandages. She tells him that she has no regrets about the surgery, and Alex says that she looks great. He says that the surgery is still testing them. Alex says that she needs to heal faster and get back to pitching in. Loren says that she wants to focus on herself and be a working mom. Alex says that she's a mom first and that she needs to take care of the household. Loren says or assures him that nothing will change, which I'm sure Alex is like, you said this about the surgery. Sure. But Alex says that she says that now, but it'll be different when she's out gallivanting around with meetings and travel and leaving him with the kids. Loren says she wants the kids to see a strong female role model, but Alex thinks it's more important that she just be a good mom who's there. Alex says that they had both agreed on traditional roles, and he thinks that by working, she will be taking away from the family. Loren is stubborn, saying that she will show him it's possible. Okay, so do you think, based on just like what you heard, do you think it's better that Loren be a good mom, which means being there for the kids, or to show her kids that she is a strong female role model that can do it all? And I hesitate to even say that
I hate that. I don't like,
because I don't think anyone could do it all. It's impossible,
it
right? You can't have it all at once. But to say that, and especially since they do have a girl, they have a girl and two boys, right? What's your thoughts on that?
I definitely am pro working mom. Because I do think that it's one of those things that's tough to get around. I think that people get to be what they want to be, right? And it's important to demonstrate, especially to your daughter, that she doesn't have to be. If someone chooses to be a stay-at-home mom, and that's what they decide they want to do, and that's how they want to decide to devote their time and energy and work. That's great. That's fantastic. If someone decides to be a stay-at-home dad and wants to just their logic, like, that's also great, right? And it's not it's the prescriptive gender stuff is the part that bothers me, right? That, like women's, and anything a woman does is taking away from her being a mom, which is bullshit, right? You're not less of a mom if you are working. You're not, less of a mom if you're not with your kids as much time. Like it's just that, that gets also into the difference that we talked about when we get to love languages, quality time versus just time, right? Just because it's more time doesn't mean you're not there for them. My mom worked the entire time I was growing up. I would have thought like my mom wasn't there for me. That's wild. That would be wild for me to think. My mom was definitely there for me all the time. Yeah. And so, I'm certainly on Team Loren on that. Like it's important to show all of your children that everyone has choices.
Right. I am very mixed on this because I do feel very strongly about moms having an identity outside of their kids.
Motherhood, outside of motherhood. Sure.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's so important for their well-being and for their self-confidence. And I mean, we've even seen that she struggles with self-confidence. And I think having that identity is super important. That being said, the part that I struggle with is when Alex said that this is something that they had agreed upon about having traditional roles. To me, that's like, well, that was the conversations that you had with your partner, right? You agreed that this is how it was going to be. So for you to have that agreement and then change your mind, I struggle with that because, your partner didn't sign up to have kids under those conditions.
Yes and no. I mean, I agree. And that's why this is a discussion and a talk, right? But I also feel like there are times in relationships where you agreed to something, you agreed to do something a certain way. And then in the middle of that are like, this isn't working. Like, this doesn't work for me, right? And to be like, well, sorry, before you knew what it was going to be like, you agreed to it. And that's the end of the discussion. We're not revisiting this is also like annoyingly and unhelpfully stubborn.
Yes, that's fair. But at the same time, it didn't feel like a discussion. It felt like Loren saying, this is what I'm doing.
Sure. Yeah. Which is what she did with the surgery as well. Right.
So, I do think it's fair to revisit. I think it's fair to say, I really want to go back and like this be conversation one of many of her going back. What is this going to look like? We're going to have to compromise, whether that's you wait until they're in school or it means part-time now, like whatever that looks like.
Or does it mean that Alex has to cut back on stuff? And I think that's the part that he's upset about is I feel like that's what he sees coming down the road is, well, that means I'm going to have to make sacrifices that I don't want to make.
Yeah, I mean, but I think they should talk about it, whereas this doesn't feel like, this feels like a memo. Like, I'm informing you of my intent to work.
Right. Yeah. Sure. I mean, there is a certain way of, hey, this isn't working and, this, I'm not going to be overruled on this, that something's going to change about this. Sure. And that is also acceptable because at the end of the day, not that she would do this, but you could be like, you were always entitled to be like, here is a memo note. Again, we will no longer be in a relationship. Like that's also
this is my intent to vacate this relationship.
Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, it just didn't sound much like a discussion, right? Like that's what compromise is. It's a discussion, not one person telling the other person how it's going to be. Yeah. All right. So I get the sense we are winding down because we seem to be wrapping things up with Angela and Michael. They're in the U.S. I don't think we're going to see much of them.
Yeah, we'll probably see them when they get into the house, like how that goes. Like that, we'll probably almost certainly see that. But yeah, like Emily and Kobe are on their way back to the States, right?
Yes. Right. So, but as far as we know, we're still moving on with this group for at least one other episode. But out of the group you saw this week, who would you say is your student of the week?
I said it was Thais for like actually listening and understanding and also changing like tacts. Like she saw, oh, this is really getting to him in a way I didn't expect. Let me slow down and back off and you know, respect him.
Right. I actually went with Patrick because I just loved the story of him learning Portuguese. I just kind of always assumed that he knew Portuguese because of his dad. Him saying that he spent 6 months, 3 to 6 months, I can't remember exactly, spending 4 hours a day, it's paid off and also shows you that it's entirely possible. It's like it shows every cast member who's ever been on the show stumbling with the translator app that this is absolutely possible. And Patrick is the student of the week for actually learning.
Fair. True.
Okay. What about your dunce?
So I'll say what I said before. Maybe it changed a little bit, but I had Alexi for his like kind of condescending. It sounded like he was condescendingly insulting working moms, right? You can't be a full mom if you work. And that definitely rubbed me the wrong way. And so I was like, yeah, I don't like this gender role bullshit. So I said Alexi.
Sure. Fair enough. I went with Gino. I mean, Gino has certainly been our dunce plenty of times. But I think this time is a new reason, right? Like, just be supportive, dude. Like, there's no reason to, like, tear down your wife by giving her a 4 out of 10, this arbitrary number that means nothing but hurts her to her core. Like, and then, like, be confused why she doesn't want you around.
Yeah, so actually that goes right into my life lesson. And I was like, if somebody asks for a rating, 4 out of 10 is literally never the correct answer. Like, it's not. If you want them to think they did well but could still do better, 8. Sure. 8 is good, right? Yeah. If you want them to think they did a terrible job, it better be a 1 or a 2. 4 out of 10 does nothing for anybody. What does it even mean? Like, what is this?
Right. Okay, so my life lesson, it's to kind of reinforce what I was saying about Patrick. You know, if you really care about someone, you will go to great lengths to show that you really want to be with them and to connect with them. And the best way to show that is by taking it seriously to learn their language. Right. Well, I mean, I feel like that's also, I mean, the length of what would you do to stay with this person. Sure. I feel like that really hits as much as you did Patrick Thais. It's Rob and Sophie too. Yeah. Right. Like what would you do? And I mean, both of them are basically like nothing. Like, right. I'll pretend to think really hard, I guess, you know, and it's like, so that shows that they shouldn't be together. Right. Much absolutely. As it shows Patrick should be with Thais, right? Yeah. Okay, so our schedule for the next couple weeks. So I will be out again on a boat this time. On a boat. Yep. I don't think it's possible to get COVID twice. So hopefully I'm good. But so next week we will not be releasing a recording. So on the 15th, we will be covering the next 2 episodes in one podcast. So we will be back July 15th. We hope everyone has a good, safe 4th of July holiday if you're celebrating in the U.S. So until then. All right. See everybody then. All right. Bye. Okay. Bye.